Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Dork side. I am the Dork in the road, and today I'm going to tell you 5 things I hate about dual sport riding. That's right everyone, I am the Dork in the road and I want to be your internet riding buddy. So please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn on those notifications so that you know when I post awesome new dual sport and adventure motorcycling content just like this. That's right, you may have seen the previous video, 5 things I love about dual sport riding, but if you didn't, just know that I love dual sport riding more than any kind of riding in the world. But it's not perfect, nothing is. And so this video will be 5 things I hate about dual sport riding. Really, maybe a more accurate title would be 5 things that mildly annoy me about dual sport riding, but people don't click on videos that say 5 things that mildly annoy me. But they love to see what you hate. Welcome to the internet. Let's go up here, there's a decent little view at the top. So the first thing I hate about dual sport riding is a result of it not being very popular. So it is one of the 2 segments, the other being adventure, of motorcycles that are growing right now. But traditionally, when people think of motorcycles, they do not think of dual sport bikes. So your average member of the public does not know what a dual sport motorcycle is. And so you get interesting questions when you talk about it. People see it and assume it's a dirt bike. I had someone that I know actually at the gas station one time say, "Why are you riding this dirt bike on the road?" And I had to explain that it's street legal. You tell someone you have a dual sport bike and they don't know what you're talking about. To really get someone to understand who doesn't have the background, you got to launch into the whole, well, see, there's these bikes called Enduro bikes that were made for long distance off-road racing, and eventually they evolved into a street legal version that both, right? People just don't know about it. So there's misconceptions, people don't understand. God, I hope you can see this view. Just people just don't know, and so you end up explaining things a lot. It's not like if you said, I have a Harley or I have a sport bike, right? If you say you have a motorcycle, people tend to picture one of those 2 things. You can't really see this view, but it is beautiful and it's so clear today. You can see all the way to the mountains. It's amazing. You tell someone, hey, what do you do for fun? Oh, I like to ride my motorcycle in the woods. And often they picture you cruising around on a Harley unless you clarify for them. Number 2 is a common complaint about dual sports, so some of these will not surprise you at all if you've ever ridden one, but they're not horribly comfortable at highway speeds and for long distances. And part of that is because the bike is a jack of all trades, right? It does a lot of things kind of well, but it doesn't do anything super well. So some people live where they can just take off and head out into the woods, right out their back door. That's awesome. I can't get into the woods without riding at least 45 minutes to an hour in any one direction. That's why this ride today, for instance, is on the road, because I can't get into the woods close to home. They're not comfortable at highway speeds. They're vibrating because they're single cylinder. They're geared lower because they're designed, you know, to climb hills and stuff. If I could change one thing, and you can do aftermarket mods, you can add a windscreen, you can add a seat concept seat, I get all that. I'm just talking about a stock, a dual sport in general. If you ask me what's annoying about dual sports, I would say they are not comfortable on the highway. They can do the highway, you can do it. I'm doing it right now, highway speeds, but they're not comfortable. It's not my favorite. That's all I'm saying. It's not my favorite. What's up? What's up, fellas? Hey, that guy's not wearing gloves, that's scary. And along with number 2, number 3 kind of leads into that, is most dual sports, not all of them, but most dual sports, in order to maintain a narrow profile and lower weight, have very small gas tanks. I don't do long rides on the road on this bike a ton, but if I did, it would be a real pain in the ass to have to stop every 100 miles and get gas, because that's about all I get comfortably from a tank. And even though I don't ride on the road a lot, it remains a constant source of anxiety for me, the small gas tank. I have to fill it up every time I go out to know that I have enough gas to account for any eventuality that might occur. Like, I don't want to have just enough gas to get where I'm going and then back to the truck or back home, because in the woods there's lots of surprises, right? You come across down trees, you can't go back the way you went, you get lost, the road you thought went somewhere doesn't go to that place. It happens a ton, and so I always like to have a huge margin for error, and the tank is about twice as big as what I like to have as a margin for error. So I'm just anxious. I'm constantly looking at the fuel gauge. Small gas tanks are a constant source of anxiety. Again, like all of the things on this list, there's stuff you can do to mitigate it. You can obviously put a larger gas tank, but there's reasons not to do that. I don't want to permanently modify my bike if I don't need to, and I don't want to carry the extra weight if I don't need to. I don't want to spend the money if I don't need to. So It's just something to be aware of. Small gas tanks are a cause for concern. Some bikes like the DR200 and my Bras have bigger gas tanks, 3 gallons plus, but a lot of them around 2-gallon tank is all they have. So the fourth thing that annoys me that I don't like about dual sport riding is gear. Now I love buying gear, but I don't like that I need 2 separate sets of gear depending on what I'm doing, right? And yes, you can just wear your street gear and go in the woods with it and be fine. That's fine. And if you're just starting out, I would recommend it. Don't go spending a bunch of money on gear until you know you're gonna like something. But I do a lot of things on this bike. 2 big examples. My 2 favorite things are riding in the woods on logging roads, exploring old abandoned areas, trying to find cool scenic overlooks, all that. And 2, riding trails. But the gear you need for those 2 things, at least the ideal gear for those 2 things, is very different. And that's not even including if I spend a bunch of time on the highway. I'd want an even different set of gear for that. And so you either have to make sacrifices, you either have to wear gear that doesn't have as good impact protection in the name of slide protection for when you're on the highway, or vice versa. You give up slide protection to know that you're protected from impact when you're going at slower speeds and more technical stuff. That trail riding ensemble armor, jersey, motocross boots is not what I would want to wear on the highway or what I would want to wear in the woods. In the woods, I'm moving at faster speeds most of the time on gravel roads. I still want some impact protection, but it's not going to be a rocky trail. For the most part, I'm going to be on gravel roads, and so sliding, road rash from gravel roads is a thing. So I want some slide protection, and my impact protection is not as important. So I don't need to wear full body armor necessarily out in the woods. That's my 2 favorite things, and that's 2 very distinct types of gear. So, and you can get away with some street gear. I like to wear my adventure gear, my waterproof gear. In the woods, that's the other thing. I need waterproof gear, which is different from my summer mesh gear, right? So I have several suits of gear that I need for different purposes. Now, that's not to say you couldn't get by with just one, but it's not ideal. It's like a double-edged sword. This bike is so versatile and awesome, right? It does so much stuff, but your gear is not as versatile as your bike, and so you need different types of gear to do different things. I'd like to illustrate number 5 for you with a metaphor, if you'll indulge me. A Swiss Army knife is a great tool. It's really nice to have it because you never know what's going to come up, right? You never know when you're going to need a screwdriver or some tweezers or a can opener. It's not the best thing to cut a steak with. You can do it, it's just harder than it needs to be, more uncomfortable. But you give up that specialized purpose, right, for the convenience and flexibility and versatility of having all the other tools that enable you to deal with any situation that you might come across, which is one of the things I talked about in my 5 Things I Love video, is that I feel on this bike I am prepared to deal with the maximum possible number of scenarios. You can cut a steak with a Swiss Army knife, but a steak knife is a lot easier, right? And that is the Achilles heel of a dual sport motorcycle and of dual sport riding in general, is that you are so versatile, you can do anything. A dual sport bike can do anything, but it doesn't do any of it well. There's nothing that this bike does that another bike doesn't do better. But there's also nothing this bike can't do. And I love that about it, but it doesn't do any of it well. It's a jack of all trades, master of none. Industrial hemp, sweet. They have to put these signs up so that people don't steal it and try to smoke it, because people are idiots. It's for making rope, not for getting you high. My 5th thing I hate about dual sports. It's also a thing I love because I'm paradoxical like that. You can love and hate the same thing. I love that this thing will do anything, but I hate that it's not the best at any of the things. And if you own a dual sport motorcycle, you know exactly what I'm talking about, especially if it's your only bike. Because if you can only have one bike, this is the one to have because it can do anything. So those are my 5. Those are the 5 things that I hate / mildly dislike about dual sport motorcycle riding. Tell me, friends, we're all fans of dual sport riding. We're all dual sport lovers, or at least interested in it, or else otherwise, are you lost? How did you get here? No hobby is perfect. Nothing is perfect. So what annoys you about dual sport riding? Tell me in the comments. I want to know. Friday night, May 15th, you're definitely going to want to tune in to my weekly live stream at 7 p.m. PST because my birthday is May 16th. So we are going to do a very special birthday live stream Friday night, May 15th. The cool thing about this stream is there will be presents. It's my birthday, but I'm going to give presents to you. And I already have a ton of cool stuff to give away collected, and I've got more on the way. I hope to see you there on Friday night, May 15th, 7 p.m. right here on the channel. you have any questions about that, leave them in the comments, please. But for now, and as always, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!
Dude, there are bees everywhere. I'm just getting annihilated by bees. Is the screen all screwed up? It does have bug guts on it. That'll happen. That will happen.